We have just completed aeration and decompaction of this red oak tree using the technique that we refer to as stirring and incorporation. And the reason we did this is because we had a plentiful amount of fill soil that we had determined from core sampling and from the original trench that we dug. And we sort of switched gears in the middle and told the owner, let's go ahead and mix it all up at the same time. And as you can see, there's some competing roots. This is a briar. I'm going to just pull it out of the way. It's going to be a little confusing to you if you don't know what you're looking for. Here is some additional roots. We don't know exactly what that might have been to, but when we get down, we can see that we've got these nice fibrous hairy roots. They're not even made of wood because the little hairy fibers on them allow the tree, as we indicated in our earlier segment, to break down elements into a form that can be used, absorbed, and then passed up through the tree using its circulatory system. Very similar to what we do now. And these conditions in which we're decompacting are ideal. You can see where the soil comes together, and with just a little bit of light pressure, it comes apart, which is almost ideal. Every handful has some of these nice fibrous roots, and I'll just give you a warning. This is not what you want to do unless there is a sufficient covering of acceptable soil to mix in. Otherwise, what you're going to do is trench. You're going to inoculate and biostimulate with mulch those trenches, and then come back at a later date when there's additional money in the budget to cover that area, allow it to settle, and then you can come back and incorporate and mix and more fully prepare, which is a great example of how these actions lead logically into a follow-up step that we teach you how to do. I am right here in the critical root zone, and this is a vital part of the step 4 evaluation process of the protocol. You remember the Cheap to Keep Tree and Landscape Protocol has authenticate, locate, and excavate. We've done that, and now we're into the second phase of the new green shift, where you will evaluate, create, and cooperate, and put a plan together. And what we have here in this evaluation stage is a modest amount of fibrous root growth. This is a nice secondary root. This grows off of the scaffold roots that has all kinds of little fibrous roots growing out of it. And we were very, very pleased to see that there are a number of areas where we've got this fibrous root growth very close to the surface. And so our next step, and of course this circle right here is vitally important that it's designed and placed where it is, because as the water comes off the hill, we need for it to stop and slow down long enough for it to absorb and soak through this very dense layer of clay. The only major negative that we've gotten out of this so far is that it's got a very, very low organic content in it, which means that it probably won't stay wet very long. It'll stay wet while it's raining, but as soon as the rain stops and it drains away, it will dry up rather quickly rather than holding it. So the owner has authorized us, with a limited budget that they have left, to he's going to get some topsoil in 50-pound bags from the local supplier. Like I said before, he's going to stage it here for us tomorrow. We'll come back. We're going to fill in these rays, and at the same time, we're going to biostimulate with the kind of humates and earthworm castings that are necessary to stimulate additional root growth. And the microbiology of the soil will be stimulated when we inoculate and populate the soil with mycorrhiza fungus and some of the beneficial bacteria, protozoa, nematodes and various other things. We haven't seen much living in this soil. We'd love to see things crawling around, moving, and so forth. That indicates an environment that's alive, it's balanced. And this is not. It's very hot, it's very dry, it's very low in organic matter. And so our next steps are, and of course we have the $550 budget, which has been authorized in a job quote that he approved in an email that we exchanged, to take, it'll probably be about 100 gallons or so of biostimulation. We've got 10, 15 gallons of earthworm castings, and a very, very good product called Vermiplex from Southern Organics that has a balanced mixture of mycorrhiza fungus and beneficial bacteria, trichoderma, and various other technical microbiological things in it that will make this soil come alive. And then we're going to take the modest amount of topsoil that's been purchased, place it on top, rake it down, and at that point we're have agreed with the owner that they are going to put a soaker hose down here, wet this area. If it doesn't rain, and if it stays dry, and if you're in a part of the country where you don't have much rain, you're going to have to irrigate. Be water wise and make sure that the water that's put in this area stays in this area and doesn't run off into the storm sewers or onto somebody else's property and so forth, because this is valuable stuff. It's going to cost money. Now we've agreed with the owner that he's going to put a soaker hose down and water this area. Now, once again, we are exchanging one of the big four, water, air, nutrients, and energy, for the ecosystem services of shade. And underneath this tree, we're starting soil formation. But before you can have soil formation, you must have erosion control. You've got to control the water. And on this particular site, control of erosion has not been that good. We seek to improve that with the softening and the aeration. We're putting air, once again, we're exchanging air and energy for ecosystem services of soil formation. You don't have soil unless you have trees, microorganisms, organic matter, clay, and a number of other elements that make soil a living medium. It's not just dirt that you see laying down here. This is dirt. What we want is soil, topsoil, something that's living. And so if you're going to spend all that time and spend all that money to put these resources in the critical root zones, we've got to control them. Make sure that there's no non-point source pollution running away from your property. In other words, the elements that you put down here, the fertilizers, the biostimulants, the various types of beneficial bacteria and other growth stimulators and regulators, make sure they stay here. Don't let them be washed away in the next torrential heavy rain. Expect it to rain heavily when it does. Predictions have been more extreme weather conditions, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to do about it except grow what we have in our designed ecosystems as efficiently as possible, using this new view of home ecology, by recycling everything on site, by being very cost efficient, and by making sure that all of the elements which are used here stay here.